The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
It's a whole new...
The people have spoken.
Austin Riley, who's, he's not playing anymore, but when he was, 1.8, still at 128 strikeouts. That was months ago.
And we're back for another season to deliver.
From a fantasy perspective for next year, he's going to be a top 3 shortstop again. Probably, second round. I think a mid-second round is about where he should go.
Have your drink ready.
Then you hold off, wait, and you hope that Perdomo's there for you in the 5th or 6th. But if he's not, then your entire strategy just shit the bed.
And prepare to be entertained.
Guys like Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, those guys need to also perform. Gary Carpenter, in the heat of the moment. And those guys, all 3 of those guys I just listed, are all streaky guys.
Welcome to another season of Bourbon N Ball.
I'm Doug, Mikey V from Clearwater, Florida over there. Finish your drink, go to bed. It's Friday night. Have fun, guys. Take care. That's it, man. This is Bourbon N Ball right here. This is our 73rd episode, season 3 coming at you. I'm Doug. I'm going to be joined by my co-host down in Clearwater, Florida, Mikey V, in about a couple minutes. Life happens. That's all. Give him some time. All right. So, a little bit about Bourbon N Ball here. Me and Mike have been doing fantasy baseball now for well over 20 years. We've been in head-to-head points leagues using ESPN, CBS Sports. So we thought a couple of years ago it would be kind of cool to maybe do a little podcast that was geared toward fantasy baseball. Expanding on just points, roto leagues, but a lot of that stuff, if you're a top 5 player in points, you're a top 5 player in cats and all that other stuff. So, a lot of that stuff spills over. But at the end of the day, we decided, hey, let's just create this. Let's get rid of negativity. Let's give, people to make educational decisions on trades and whatnot, because there's a lot of negativity when it goes to that, right? You always read online, hey, who wins, top or bottom? I'm getting this guy. And everybody's like, well, you're an idiot. Listen, I don't care if you want to go out and get your guy. And Mikey V says it all the time. You want to go out and get your guy, you go get your guy. No worries about that. So, we kind of bring out the negativity and just kind of go with the flow. We're here to educate you. We're here to tell you who's based off of points, who's good and who's kind of underperforming and who's not good, right? So, of course, we're coming to you from Military Broadcast Radio. We're streaming on Patriot Radio. So, of course, with all that affiliation, there is some military connection. For myself, I was a paratrooper in the Army for well over 6 years. I've jumped in Ireland, Germany, the Netherlands, and over a year in Afghanistan for all of 2011, 2012. So I was a combat vet, and I know for Mike, his grandfather was in World War II, and his dad was drafted in the Vietnam War. So, for both of us, a lot of military affiliation, which is why when MBR asked us, we came up to them and asked if we could use their platform, but for them to give us the use of that is it's a thank you. So with all that said, of course, Bourbon N Ball, that's the ball part. The bourbon part is very simple, right? We like to drink bourbon while we talk baseball. Here we are in a nice little Bourbon N Ball bourbon glass. First sip of the night. It always goes down the best, doesn't it? So yeah, we like to sip some bourbon. We talk baseball. We do it for 2 hours. It's good talk, right? If you want to join in, comment box is there. Leave a comment. We'll address it as soon as it pops up. And yeah, we like to have fun and we go with it. So with that said, I am trying to buy some time for Mikey V to join us before we start going around the league, because there is a lot of good stuff to talk about and a lot of injuries, believe it or not. And when I say injuries, it's, it's easy to say, well, as someone who you drafted in the 15 or, later on rounds of your draft, they're hurt. Well, it's okay, right? But I mean, I want to say this last week, we've seen injuries from people that were drafted pretty high. I don't want to tease out any names, but they're pitchers, hitters, and they were pretty tough. So if you own any of them, I do own one of them, so I do know the pain of all that. I feel it. I feel the pain. But we're in week 2, right? This is where I feel like the first month is when you start to gauge, right, who's going to be a breakout, who's not going to be a breakout, how long can they keep it going, what's the track record? And that's what we're here to kind of dissect in these 2 hours when we go over some of this information. I know last year PCA was one of the biggest breakouts, right? He had an amazing first half. People were saying, dark horse MVP, all that good stuff. And then it kind of just fizzled in the second half. Mikey V, man, you just get back from a golf course. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's going on? How we doing?
Hey, man, I'm good. I just did our brief intro, and I was getting ready to just kick it around the league.
Oh, you're gonna go around the league right now?
Yeah. Oh. All right. So you ready to join me on this?
Ooh, man, is that Jose Ramirez?
It is Jose Ramirez, Guardians third baseman Jose Ramirez. I feel like at least once a month, we kind of talk about how underrated he is, right? Well, he played in his 1,620th game Monday, becoming the franchise leader in games played, also becoming the only active player to lead his team in games played. He leads the franchise in extra base hits with 729, 27 multi-homer games. He's second in home runs, second in stolen bases, second in total bases, second in RBIs, third in doubles, seventh in hits with 1,674. I think when it's all said and done, you could probably make the case who will lead the franchise in every single one of those categories for sure, because he did sign that very long extension, which puts him into his 40s, I believe. But let's talk now, right? I mean, look, he's have a slow start to the year. The entire team is, I think. He's batting 146. He's got a homer, 5 ribbies, 6 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. He's giving you 21 points, 1.9 a start. Career-wise, everything looks good, right? We always talk about like a Hall of Fame candidate. 286 home runs, 289 for stolen bases, 954 ribbies, 1,600 hits. I still, if he would retire today, I would say he's a fringe Hall of Famer, just because there's thresholds, right? I feel like if you're like a 350 guy, that's a pretty good threshold, right? Because that's longevity for bases, for stealing, and for home runs. I mean, also, I feel like a big threshold is 1,000 ribbies. He's 954, probably get there for sure after this year. He'll probably be a 300 after the year. So I think, you give him 2 more years, 3 more years. He's a 350 guy. I think he's a lock. For now, he's kind of like a fringe, and I'm very surprised he only has 1,600 hits. I would have, expected that to be a little higher, just because he doesn't strike out, he makes contact. But hopefully, at the end of the day, I don't know where do I see him with hits? Maybe 2,400. I mean, he's got another like 8 years, right? For 600 hits, 800, yeah, for another 800 hits, 8 years. Yeah, I mean, it's doable for sure. But he's a fringe. As far as this year, like I said, I mean, he'll be fine. I feel like, everybody starts off the season pretty. It's tough to start off and just hit the ground running for a lot of players, and you're seeing that with everybody, right? Not just him, Stephen Kwan, and some other big names that we'll talk about later on. But I don't know. So I guess I got a couple questions for you, Mike, and I don't want to throw them on you quick because I know you're just coming in. And, but Hall of Fame now, yes, no, maybe. Hall of Fame later, obviously, yes, no, maybe. And then, like, what do you make of the slow start? Obviously, you hold him. You drafted him in the first round, but he is getting older, right? Everybody's always saying, when's that decline going to come for Jose Ramirez? I mean, could it be this year? He's 32.
Yeah, we talk about, 33, 34, 35 is about that age where you start to kind of go the other way. But with him, it's, he doesn't miss a lot of contact and he doesn't strike out often. And, I think some of those hits that, you said 1674, I think some of those also walks him there too because he just has that plate discipline. So, just because he's, only got 1,600 so far at this point, it's probably because also at the same time, it's that great plate discipline. So, I think he's a fringe Hall of Famer. I think he's on the same projectile. I mean, if he can average 150 and plus more hits per season, that 2,400 threshold, I think is definitely in play. He's such a great hitter. I expect him just to continue just climbing the ladder with all these numbers too. Where he ends at the end, it's going to be the Hall of Fame, regardless, wherever the numbers land. He's just that good of a caliber player. That being said, this year, obviously, a little bit of a slow start, but that's par for the course for him. I feel like every year we talk about how slow some of these guys get in the beginning of the year, and they just have to be patient. And we talk about a lot of times Jose Ramirez, and it takes him a few weeks before he's Jose Ramirez again. Even sometimes it bleeds into May, which you got to be patient. We talk about so early in the season, there's 162 games, and we're only on game like 10, 11, 12, like, and I mentioned the other day too to you guys in the group chat as well, and I think some of this is some of the fatigue that's happening from the World Baseball Classic too. Not just Jose Ramirez, but a lot of these guys that played the Junior Caminero, Bo Bichette, like these guys were really a part of something special this year. It's like a playoff atmosphere type atmosphere, and it's a high that it's really hard to get off of. Now instead of playing for your country, now you're going back to spring training and you're wrapping up to get geared up for another 160 games. So I can imagine, some of the heat that they felt during the World Baseball Classic, they lose some of that because now it's kind of just like back to work type work. So I think sometimes it's just getting your feet back under yourself, recovering from that. Again, longevity is the name of the game here. You want these guys at the end of the year being at their very best. So if they struggle at the beginning, it is what it is. I think we'll talk about some of these guys that we still might have some red flags, even though they're off to slow starts as well. So, but Jose Ramirez, he's not one of them. You hold until you die. That's my stance on that.
I mean, I will say as a team, though, the expectation is you always want to better yourself than the previous year, right? And last year they did make the playoffs. They had one of the best 2-month stretches of any team, I think, in history, right? I think they won something like 24, 25. I mean, it was an amazing stretch that catapulted them into the postseason. So I guess I don't know if they're going to repeat that. I mean, I'm surprised. Like Gavin Williams looks great, right? BB is, he's still trying to find his own, and they didn't really make a ton of additions. Honestly, I think they made subtractions. So it's going to be interesting to see how. I mean, it's a weak division that helps, sure, but it'll be interesting to see like where they end up when it's all said and done this year, just because of the lack of moves. It's kind of wild. Like now there's this ruin mill stuff going around already about maybe getting rid of Stephen Kwan. Crazy.
Yeah, I think outfield is a tough position for some of these teams, and it's tough to find stability. So if you look at some of these teams like Cleveland, I mean, again, we always talk about middle market teams just trying to scrap together the best what they can do without spending an X amount of money. I'm listening to the radio today, and I'm in Tampa over here, and they're talking about how the Yankees have a $289 million payroll. The Red Sox got 191, and then when you go down to Tampa, it's like under 100 million. So some of these teams are on different playing fields, and it's tough to keep up with that. So a guy like a Stephen Kwan, I mean, yeah, he's almost at his peak right now, I feel, with his age. performance, you can still get a lot of good baseball out of him. And then Cleveland, it's just always going to have to be building up pieces, binding pieces. Hopefully they get a hit on a few of these guys that they get in these trades that when they sell their big guys, like a Gavin Williams, right? I don't think he was originally from that organization. I believe he was part of a trade to a bigger deal, I think. Don't quote me on that. But that's what you kind of have to do to be successful if you're a smaller market team. So it's just staying competitive at the same time too, getting yourself there.
And not to jump off topic here, but you did bring up Tampa Bay real quick, and I was reading already that the Mets might be reaching out for Yandy Diaz to play first base because Jorge Polanco, A, is day to day, and B, he's just not cutting it. And Yandy Diaz, who's hitting over 375 because he did hit a 2-run shot to start the game tonight, would be an immense upgrade. This is a guy in his prime who doesn't strike out. I mean, you're talking about, and I guess the trade is going to be really just for prospects. It's I think their number third pitching prospect, and a couple other. It was like a 3-for-1, but it was really just prospects for Yandy Diaz. And I said, wow, if there was ever a trade that made sense, it would be Yandy going to the Mets. That was the big weakness we all knew was going to happen, and unfortunately, it's just Polanco's not really cutting it, and I think we kind of knew he wasn't gonna. But it also doesn't hurt that Juan Soto was out.
Yeah, the whole Mets team is a slow start, but with Tampa, they're in a funny position because they're trying to get a new ballpark for 2028 or 2029. So we're kind of already looking ahead down here in those kind of years to see what your product's going to be on the field when you first open up this new ballpark. So you're looking, 3 years down the line. So a guy like a Yandy, I think Tampa is also very good about getting the best returns possible for their guys. I feel like they know who they want in their organization. They have one of the best scouting talents, I feel like, for like the last 15, 20 years in our lifetime. I just feel like they've always got guys coming out of that organization. And then they go on these short runs. So I think a Yandy this year getting moved, and I don't want to call it a tank, but somewhat of a tank, I think is possible. And the Mets, man, what a great fit that would be, huh? That's a great fit. They need that. They need the contact. They need a guy with average. They need a guy to get Soto going, Lindor going. That guy's a table setter.
I know. I mean, like great point, man. I mean, Yandy Diaz, he bats leadoff, right? You put him at the leadoff for that. Now you bring everybody down one. Now you got Lindor batting second, which I think he should be anyways.
Yes.
Soto third, right? I mean, I don't like Bo Bichette batting cleanup, but I'm sure you can play around with it a little bit. I mean, but yeah, it's a whole nother dimension. And I do want to say, Marcus Semien hasn't looked terrible. He's looked decent. He's put up a couple RBI doubles the other day. So it's not like, I always thought he was just a product of a bad Texas Rangers team. So I thought the move to New York in a good team like that is kind of like a setting him up for success, which I still think you got him so late that the return on investment is going to be very big for him. And there's another guy we're going to talk about later on named Christian Walker, who we talk about return on investments. But yeah, you do make a good point that Yandy he's a table setter, right? Everybody in that lineup is going to be moved down a slot to, I think, where they should be. I think Juan Soto is a 3 hitter. He's not a 2. He's a 3. It's just, it's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just, again, weather is a factor early on this year. Northern teams, cold weather. We saw last week Byron Buxton got hit kind of like on the hand side a little bit, but it was so cold. He was just like, you know what? I'm going to call it a day. And he just left the game. He came back the next day. So when it starts warming up, ball's starting to fly out a little bit more. I think then you're going to see some of these guys start to get comfortable in their lineup, especially like a Semien, a Jorge Polanco. Like those guys are brand new in that lineup. There's still, I think, some comfort to get used to that. And then I think maybe later this summer they're going to pop off. I look at that team and it's just too good on paper to fail. I think they're just too good of a team.
And Adam makes a good point. Luis Roberts is having a pretty good year in there too.
Yes, he is. He's back.
Oh, we'll see about that. Okay. All right. Next up on this this very fun second week of baseball. Man, last week was the ejection by the manager for arguing how long it took for a hitter to actually challenge the ABS system. This week we have another ejection from a game, a pitcher and a hitter. So if you weren't watching, the Braves and the Angels played Tuesday night, and man, what a game, right? I think Ronaldo Lopez, he was on the bump for the Braves, gave up a 2-run home run to Angels outfielder Jorge Soler. Next time up, Lopez hits him. Next time up after that, he throws near his head. It's crazy. Take a look at the last pitch that started everything and just watch. I mean, last time I saw a brawl like this reminds me of like the old Carl Everett days of Red Sox. And I'm probably dating myself, but it does kind of remind me of that. I mean, take a look at this.
Lopez fires one to the backstop. It's right back to Heim, who throws late to second base. Albies just missed the tag as Shonowell advances on a wild pitch.
The rebound by Heim and a quick throw. He was trying to tag Shonowell. Albies in the back foot and leg area. Didn't get it down. Just missed the tag. Hit the dirt.
Now here comes Soler going after Lopez. They square up, and Soler and Lopez are throwing haymakers. They're going after each other. Soler is finally tackled from behind as the Angels and Braves are all out onto the field. That came up out of nowhere. Soler was upset after a couple of pitches were high and in after he hit yet another homer off Lopez. And a fight broke out just out of thin air.
When you see that baseball being thrown that far again, we talked about success against them.
All right, so listen. Now, of course, both were ejected, and actually Lopez didn't look pretty bad. And you want to talk about being back so far? He looks like he might be back. I mean, last year was very injury riddled, but the year before that, when he first took on the starter role, he looked really good. And he's starting to strike out guys. He's pitching just as hard as he did back then. He didn't get the W, but he went 4 1/3. He gave up two unearned runs, might I add. That home run, even though it was a home run, the guy who got on base was due to an error. So it was 2 unearned runs and 7 strikeouts. So both were suspended originally 7 games, appealed, ended up being reduced to 5. Lopez isn't going to miss a start, so he's still a 2-start pitcher going into next week. I guess my question would be like who's in the wrong, right? Like, obviously Lopez must have saw something he didn't like after Soler hit that home run. And I don't think I've seen any podcast that this past week kind of break it down. I still haven't. And I think after he's getting hit, Soler probably thought, that's it. It's over. Whatever. Maybe I took too much time watching the home run. He hits me. Whatever. We're done, right? Well, we're going to put this in the past. Next thing you know, he comes back up again. The pitch sails over his head, and then he charges. Honestly, at that point, I don't hate the charge. I don't. And I got to tell you, the Angels are a very sneaky team. Like, on paper, they're not good, but they crushed Chris Sale. They're crushing Chase Burns tonight. Maybe that sparked something. Maybe it was like, okay, you know what? Let's get this team going. Maybe it's exactly what they need. And I'm a Braves guy. I do like the Braves, although I don't like the players on the, like, I don't like Olsen and I don't like Riley, but it's very interesting to see how that all transpired and what he did. And honestly, I don't blame him for doing it one bit.
No, it's fine. I like it. I mean, sometimes it reminds me more of like when Manny Ramirez was getting thrown at, because it wasn't like really close and tight, but it was just close enough to be like, you know what? I know what you're trying to do, and if we're gonna do this, let's just freaking do it. And that's what Manny kind of took that as. I look at this kind of the same way. I look at that pitch, that second pitch. It wasn't high and in. You know, it was high. It was a little in, but it wasn't like in his face. But it was close enough to get the message out there. And then clearly, he said something to him. Lopez said something back to him. He didn't like what Lopez said. He went out there. He took care of his business. And he had those wailing arms, the flying arms. That's what I call them. Crazy. And then shout out to Walt Rice, just kind of sneaking in, kind of stopping Soler and kind of separating him out. Like, old man Walt, man, that's a big boy to be going after in Jorge Soler, you know, and breaking up a fight. So that's a testament to him. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I love to see the juices so flowing on some of these teams early on. And, you know, a guy like Jorge Soler, like, let's just call it for what it is. This guy was a 2021 World Series MVP with the Braves. Like, peak. That was his peak. And really, ever since then, he hasn't done anything. Like, he's gone to Anaheim last year. It's the second year at Anaheim. And last year wasn't a very successful year, you know, I don't think, for him. So I think he wants to hit the ground running this year. Angels are actually playing pretty decent baseball, you know, for the most part. And it's not really, like, him contributing. Obviously, next game, he hits the home run. You know, how, you know, can you not love baseball? But, yeah, it's just I think it's been a frustrating couple of years for Jorge, and I think it's just one of those things he just needed to get out a little bit as well. And like you said, Lopez too. Like, Lopez didn't pitch well last year. This year he's pitching great. And you know, maybe it's just that competitive edge. One got it back, one's trying to find it. You know, they start yapping at each other and it just blows up. I thought it was going to be more of a fight in the Brewers-Red Sox series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about that in a second. But that's it. Let's dig into the next one first. No, let's talk about that one then. Whatever. We'll flip a little bit. So yes, if anybody hasn't watched, you had Red Sox first baseman Wilson Contreras. He was hit by a pitch during the Brewers series this past week. He's pretty upset about it. So listen to what he said after the game. It's kind of wild. Wait for it. Some technical difficulties, unfortunately. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Because it is pretty, I mean, just the idea of, you know, what his mentality was, you know, before doing all that stuff, and then you'll understand, kind of get a glimpse, because it did make a little sense. So let me load it back up here, and I'm gonna just go right into it. So here's what he said after the game.
Pitch that's the 24th time that they hit me in my career, 24th, and that's the 6th time they hit me. And they always say, I'm not trying to hit you. That get old. So next time they hit me again, I'm gonna take one of them out. That's what happened. That's a message. That's a message.
I mean, that's pretty ruthless, pretty bold statement, if I do say so. Just literally just saying, I'm gonna take one of them out. So I at first thought the guy might have been crazy, right? I mean, you look at what he's saying, you look at the game, you're like, well, come on. But I mean, he is absolutely right. This guy has been hit 24 times by the Brewers. Not only that, this is the 6th time he's got hit by Brandon Woodruff alone. I mean, 6. I have them all. Take a look. Take a look, and you be the judge. He doesn't even gripe about this, okay?
Here with the mound visit rule in place this season.
That's got to be killing him, doesn't it?
One of the chief culprits. 1-2 the count, and that hit him. Maybe they're falling off a little bit, whatever the reason is. Sometimes, and he drills it. So the fastball got away from him that time.
I'm not sure.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Well, a 9-pitch, 8-strike first inning will do the trick as Wilson Contreras gets hit with a fastball. Didn't do much to get out of the way. Full force till maybe mid-April, beginning of May. This one fouled back by Contreras. He's trying to say he got hit by the pitch. And Mike Esterbrook is saying, yes, he was hit by the pitch.
Every position on the field.
And he hit him. Just got a piece. And his brother is going to have to get in between Wilson and Brandon Woodruff. And Pat Murphy, you could read his lips. He said, yeah, we'll challenge that. So the Brewers are going to have the Red Sox with the bases loaded, nobody out. And Wilson Contreras up in arms.
He's going to save.
So, I mean, it's kind of wild, I think, to say you've been hit by the same pitcher 6 times, the same team 24 times. As crazy as he looked during his rant after the game, I think he might have a case here. I really don't. I don't know what he did to the Brewers. I don't know what he did to Woodruff, but that's an excessive amount of hit by pitches by just a pitcher alone, 6. I think he really does have a gripe here. And I think, honestly, something has to have happened between the team and him, or I don't know. I mean, what are you thinking, Mike?
He played for the Cubs. Cubs and Brewers, usually big rivals. So a lot of at-bats being seen by both those guys against each other. But 6 is a lot. 6 is a lot. That's like, if you said a couple times, like you said 2 or 3 times, you face them in the division, I can understand, but 6 is a big number. And then like those pitch locations too, high and in, right in the hands. People break bones all the time when they get hit in the hands. Then they're out for whatever, 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is to get back. It's the same spot every time. You know what? I agree with you, Doug. I'd be fed up too. And now seeing this and seeing the context behind of what he was so mad about, I mean, you can't blame him. You really can't blame him. And as a Red Sox fan, it is great to see a guy with a little bit of fire and just say what he wants. That's a guy that the fans of the Red Sox are going to get behind too. They love their troublemakers. You know what I mean? They love a guy that's got like a bad boy persona, and Wilson Contreras has it. So I think it's good for the Red Sox to have a guy like that brings us that fire, and also veteran leadership, hopefully, throughout the year. That's the kind of person I want on my team. I want a guy that's not messing around. We'll call you out. And then I don't know if you watched the next game or not, but that was Jacob Mizorowski. And he hit a batter with a curveball. And even the broadcast cameras were going directly to the Red Sox dugout, looking at Wilson Contreras to see what he's saying, what he's doing, what he's going to. And you could see him already just being like, no, curveball. Like he was trying to throw a curveball, clearly. And then everyone's laughing because everyone's on edge. Everyone knows like the smallest thing could trigger this guy off, and it's going to create a brawl, after his comments. So I don't know. I love it. I love it in baseball. I think there should be more fights in baseball. I think there's a lot of testosterone out there that just gets kind of buried in it. But if you got a brawl, just let it happen. Don't be the guys that try to break it up. Just let it happen. It's good for the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice to see the competitive juices flowing, right? As they say. Speaking of competitive juices, let's talk about one of the hottest pitchers in the National League, Marlins starting pitcher Sandy Alcantara. So he had pitched a complete game shutout, right? His last 2 starts ago. Last start, he kind of looked like he was on the verge of doing it. I don't want to say I jinxed him because I said, oh no, we're going to see another Maddox-like performance. So maybe I did jinx him. I'm sorry, Sandy. So, but he got into the 9th. He had something like 89 pitches or so. And, the first batter, he strikes the first batter out. Second guy doubles, walks De La Cruz. His pitch count is still 95 at this point, right? Which is still manageable, but it is early. So there's a lot of things you got to take into consideration. Last year he wasn't healthy, whatever. They pull him, and he was very upset about that. He questioned the team's decision to take him out in the 9th inning of Tuesday night's game, which was against the Reds. So take a look at this, and I might have to fast forward because it is a very long clip, but if you watch the end of it, you'll see
these numbers this season,
where he
sparkling
got
16
into,
innings, Tom.
Interesting.
Man, he
right
has
into the end. Let's go to the 9th.
ground ball the second.
So that's the first out.
Edwards
There
to
you go.
Norby, 2 away. This has been an unbelievable turnaround that started late last summer as Friedel lifts this in the air to left. 2 pitches and 1 out here in the 9th. Probably send Daniel Moskis out there. There's ball 4.
Overthrew that. That's probably one of the few, if maybe the only time tonight that just kind of gotten out of mechanics.
Is he going to the bullpen, or is he going to get nose to nose with his ace? That's going to be it. And now boos rain down on Clayton McCullough. These fans wanted to see Sandy finish it, but he's allowed a 1-out double and a walk here in the 9th. And Alcantara leaves to a nice roaring ovation on this Tuesday in Miami. Didn't quite have enough.
So you saw, of course, Miami goes on to lose the game. Sandy spoke about being pulled and said that he felt he deserved to at least be asked how he felt before being taken out. This is an area where I get to 95 pitches with a righty on deck. You at least let me see one more batter before you decide to pull me, which he's right. There is a righty on deck. I think he is the ace of the club. Why don't you ask him before that? But we all know what happens when that happens. Look at Grady Little and Pedro Martinez in the playoffs. So, I don't blame him. I think pitchers tend to forget this is a long season, right? It's the second week. Let's not forget he didn't pitch most of last year. He was still coming back from that injury at the beginning of the year. So why would you keep him out there longer than you need to? If this was July, August, I would say keep him out there. If he was healthy all of last year, I'd say keep him out there. But because he wasn't, because of the pitch count, and even the announcer, he overthrows the fastball to LA De La Cruz. I think he was tired. I think it was time to just come out of the game. And I think sometimes players, as they're competitive. They want to be in the game. But I think the right decision was made.
It was right. It was the right decision. Longevity, again, it's only the second, third start for Sandy. Obviously, he's been electric since he started. But it's just too early to be, sending these guys out there for 120 pitches just to get a complete game or something like that. Like you just showed there, he was starting to get hit around a little bit. So it was time to pull him, but doesn't overshadow how great he's been that game, and then the game before that with the complete game. Like it looks like he is back. I am such a Sandy guy. I think I announced that last week that he was back, and I'm standing by it. I think this guy's legit. Fantasy stud when he's on, top 15, top 10 stealing. Like this guy is someone that you do want on your team. We talked about it last week as well. Now it's going to be tough to buy some of these guys that went in later rounds because now you're going to be paying at a higher premium. So the Sandy, he might be great all year, but if you want him, you're going to have to pay more than probably what you want to pay for him at the same time right now. But great to see it though. Great to see it. They got a little something cooking there in Miami. Offense seems pretty good. Rotation seems pretty good too. I think Eroy Perez is taking a little bit of a step forward. I think there's some control things there. Max Meyer pitched a great game yesterday. He got the win. So he started to progress a little bit as well. So they're starting to see some good things in Miami. It's just they're getting the fans on board, man. They have such a great opportunity to make a nice run here like they usually do every 12, 13 years. And it doesn't sound like the fans are being receptive to the Miami team this year.
I don't think they are any year, to be honest with you. All right. So let's just jump right into to the Hurt Locker.
Ooh.
Everybody hurts sometimes.
All right. So I did start out the show and I did say that, I know it's the beginning of the year and you kind of see these injuries kind of stack up at the beginning of the year. But this is one of the few times where you're looking at injuries from like some of these top players that you drafted. I would say the top 3 rounds, and there's a lot of good players that did hit the IL on this list that, you drafted pretty early and, kind of tough to see. Very tough to see if you own some of these guys. I mean, I do own one of them, and But yeah, let me run down this. Mike, you can break it down a little bit more, and then we'll talk updates, because there are a lot of good updates for a lot of people that kind of draft and stashed, we'll say. But first on the list, and this one's really tough to see, Cubs starting pitcher Cade Horton. He was removed from Friday's game. He was a day later. He was placed in the 15-day IL with a right forearm strain. Well, it's a UCL tear. He'll require surgery. He's out for the year. He was 1-0, 7 1/3 innings, 4 Ks, 2 walks, a 2.4 ERA. Gave you 20 points in a start and a half. He did. He was looking like the ace that they thought he was going to be. So, to see him like that is kind of tough, really. Tigers starting pitcher Justin Verlander. This was more of just respect for Verlander than any kind of fantasy implication. He was placed on the 15-day IL. He had left hip inflammation that usually happens with people in their 40s. But he should be back at the end of April if everything goes smooth. He did not have the best start to the year. He went 3 2/3, gave up 5 earned, 1 strikeout, 2 walks, and the loss for -7 points against the D-backs. I guess when we get back, when I'm done reading this list, my question when we jump on him is going to be, is it time to retire, right? I know he wants to get to 300. He's years away from that because he's at 266. So that will be a discussion question once I'm done this. Second off, you get third, actually. This was a guy that was probably one of the top 5 or 6 pitchers off the board. Astros starting pitcher Hunter Brown. He's on the 15-day IL with a right shoulder strain. They're thinking late April, early May return. But again, it's all dependent on if everything goes smooth. And since they're not having him do baseball activities for at least 2 weeks, I'd say May. But this could get pushed back even further. He's not going to do any baseball activities. I want to see what's going to happen, re-image him, and go from there. He looked good, 1-0 in his 2 starts, 10 2/3, 17 strikeouts, 6 walks, a .84 ERA, 36 points. I mean, man, he was looking every bit the ace the Astros had hoped for after not re-signing Framber Valdez. Then another one, Dodgers shortstop Mookie Betts. He's on the 10-day IL. He's got that oblique strain, which we all know can kind of linger on if you don't get the appropriate rest, right? So they originally thought it was a lower back issue, but after an MRI, it was determined it was the oblique. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks, so a mid-May, late May type of return is in the cards. I mean, he wasn't having the greatest year as far as an average goes, 179, but 2 home runs, 7 ribbies, 7 runs, no stolen bases, only 4 strikeouts, gave you 25 points, 3.1 a start, which is good. This one's close to home. Mets outfielder Juan Soto. He was finally placed on the 10-day IL. It's going to be a right calf strain. They're saying it should be 2 to 3 weeks, which would put him back on the field at the end of April. I'm hoping that's the case. I don't entirely know. I know he's he's swinging a bat, but he's not really doing any type of running yet. So they're going to give him a week off of doing that. They originally had him not just list him day to day for a couple of days. Then they decided to put him on the IL because they thought this was something he could power through. Obviously it wasn't. So, hopefully the end of April, he'll be back. He was having a really great start to the year. 355, 1 homer, 5 ribbies, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, no stolen bases, 21 points, 2.6 to start. Much better start than last year. I mean, this was putting him on pace to get to that 550, which is a really, anything over 500 is great, which he got last year, even with the slow start. Orioles starting pitcher Zach Eflin. This one, he looked great his last start. He exited. He's going to be out for the year. He's having the dreaded Tommy John surgery. He'll miss pretty much the first half of next year as well. He was going pitch for pitch for Jacob deGrom. Struck out 7 and 3 2/3. He looked great. So really tough to see him go out. And then a couple day-to-days here. You got Cole Raggins. He's got a thumb injury. He should be making his next start. Jacob deGrom was day-to-day. His MRI for his knee came back clean. So they're thinking he might skip a start, but it all depends on how he feels in the next couple of days. A's outfield DH, Brent Rooker, he's day-to-day with a right flank injury. They're waiting on MRI results, and an IL stint is probably going to be the outcome. And then Corbin Carroll, day-to-day. He's got that hip issue that he aggravated while he did run out of triple a couple games ago. But he says it's nothing to really be concerned about. He should be back in the lineup either Saturday, tomorrow, or Sunday.
Man, tough list. I always hate to read these names that we wanted to draft so early and then they get hurt so early. I mean, let's start with Cade Horton. That's a guy that I had my eye on in a lot of drafts. I think that guy was going to take a step forward. He was already looking really good. Now he's going to be out for the whole entire year. UCL tear, just devastating. And again, if these guys are getting surgeries out for the season, you can't expect them to be back 100% ready to go during spring training and for the start of the regular season either. So it's going to be a long journey for some of these guys, like a Cade Horton, Zach Eflin, which is also devastating just because, he's just getting a little bit older. This is going to take a little bit of time to get back on the field when you have a surgery like this when you're a little bit older. So, hopefully these guys have speedy recoveries, but it's just tough to see. And it's just early on in the season, you might be able to go out there and find a free agent that's doing pretty well, and you can see if you can ride it out. But we're getting close now where guys are pretty much established. So you're picking up guys now that you can stash for later, like maybe a minor league call-up or something like that, like a Peyton Tolley. You just don't know how many games you're really going to get out of him or how many innings for that matter. You can go for the injured guys that are out there. If maybe Hunter Brown's still out there, if someone didn't stash him. I mean, Corbin Burns comes back later this season if you want to be really patient. Same thing, with Blake Snell, but I'm sure a lot of these guys are already stashed. So it's just definitely a hurt when you have these guys get hurt so early. Like my pitching league, Doug, I had Cade Horton, I had Cody Pence. They might not sound like the top tier names of pitching, but they were going to be an important part of the season for me to have them there. And now I got to, figure it out. And, luckily, like a Jose Soriano has been pitching well. I got him on the team. He's been pitching lights out, one of the best pitchers in the game right now. But it's tough to replace a guy like a Cade Horton, I think. Same thing with Hunter Brown. Luckily, that's just a shoulder strain, but still, you're going to be out with your ace. A lot of guys drafted maybe him as their number one pitcher on the team. And then going back to Verlander, you talk about retirement. I think it's possibility. Well, what is he now? 43? 44?
42.
42?
Maybe turning 43.
The numbers are nice at the end, but he doesn't have anything to prove. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. It's great that he went back to Detroit, back to his roots, so he can have this year as a send-off year. But, yeah, he needs to start thinking about really considering hanging it up. It's, like I said, nothing to prove, nothing to show off, I think, at this point. So I think that's something that he needs to consider. I think the biggest name on here that's super scary to me is Mookie Betts. Another year older. We talk about regression with some of these guys when they turn 32, 33, 34. What direction are they going to go in? And Mookie was having a pretty good season so far, but now it's these injuries. And it's not the first time these injuries have creeped up on Mookie as well. Dodgers are a very deep team. There's going to be absolutely no rush. They're going to be there at the end. We talked about that last year too. Same thing with their pitchers. They're not going to speed guys up just to get them back on the field so they can win. They're so deep, they're going to win anyway. So like a Mookie Betts, yes, it's a bad injury. It says 4 to 6 weeks. It could be more of that 6-week ladder than the 4 weeks, just because, again, they're so deep.
Yeah, no, they are. They are. And they're not going to push anybody back because of that. They'll give him as much time as he needs. So, yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. He is a year older. He hit the IL last year, and I believe the year before that. So, I think he's turning 33. It's going to be tough. I think for me, the biggest one probably would be Juan Soto. Not just because I own him, but just because what he brings to that lineup. And I think without him in it, you're kind of seeing, how tough, how sluggish it can be without a man like Juan Soto at the top of your lineup. Last year you could, you had somebody to fall back on, Pete Alonso. The first half of the year anyways, because he was hitting over 300. He just, tanked to bed the second half really, really bad. But Soto was there the second half and did really, really good. So kind of lifted him. This year, there's nobody like that. I don't think Lindor is that guy. I think he is like a 1B to a 1A. And when that 1A isn't there, it's just that the lineup doesn't go, and you're seeing it. You are, man. Bo Bichette, to me, I told you when they signed him, I don't think he was going to be the answer. I thought it was a good sign, but I think, betting him in 3-4. I mean, he's not a 3-4 hitter or anything like that. You know, he's either late or early in the lineup type of hitter. He's not a middle of the order type bat. You know, and you're seeing that. And the same thing with Polanco. You know, and so Yandy Diaz, like I said, it makes sense for this lineup. They do need a first baseman, but they need a 1A because of a situation like this. And you're seeing it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the score tonight. They got no runs through 6 right now against Oakland, and I feel like that's a team that they should be beaten up on. You know, again, I look at the paper, I see the team. They should be so much better than what they have been so far to this point. Again, long season. I still think they're going to put it together, and they have enough veterans in there in that lineup where I think it takes time to kind of get it together. I think Lindor is going to be fine. Like I said, I think it's just a little baseball classic hangover a little bit. He also had that broken hand in spring training as well, so he's still getting the speed under himself. And then we saw last year too with Juan Soto when he first came to New York. It took him a minute before he was getting going. He had a little bit of time. So Bo Bichette, we saw 2 years ago removed, not a great season. We saw him have a really bad season. He really recovered last year. So this year it's kind of, you don't know really what you're going to get so far. Right now you're kind of getting that 2024 Bo Bichette, which is not great. So hopefully he snaps out of it. But again, there's just too much talent, including the rotation too. I like that rotation as well. But you can't replace a Juan Soto. You know, like you said, you can go out and get a Yandy, but he's not Juan Soto. That's not the same guy. You know, like you said, he's a 1A. Everyone else is pretty much a 1B to it. And if he's not in that lineup, it's going to affect multiple people in that lineup. So, be interesting to watch.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, like I said, hopefully he's back, you know, in that 2 to 3 week span. Anything longer, that'll be really tough for that team to swallow, you know. All right, so let's go with updates here. A pretty long list, but I think I can trek through it, and then you can you can come in here with your wisdom, Mike. All right. So Orioles second baseman Jackson Holliday was 5 for 18 during his rehab start. He should be back early next week. He will be the Orioles' primary second baseman. Arizona starting pitcher Merrill Kelly threw 75 pitches in 5 scoreless innings during his first rehab. He's going to throw one more. They're thinking 85, 95 pitches. If all goes well, he might be it. Call him up after that. 2 starts. Red starting pitcher Nick Lodolo played catch earlier this week. He exited his last rehab start in the 3rd due to a blister. He threw 40 pitches, but he retired every batter he faced. He will more than likely need another one once the blister's healed, so he should be back in roughly 2 weeks. Blue Jays starting pitcher Trey Yesavage, he will make his second rehab start. He went 2 2/3, gave up 1 run, 3 Ks in his first start after throwing 44 pitches. So the club's going to have to decide if they want to call him up or give him one more start to be fully stretched out. I'm thinking they'll probably just give him one more start to be fully stretched out, especially now that Corbin Carroll is pitching for them, who honestly doesn't look good this first start. Continue on with the Blue Jays trend here. Starting pitcher Shane Bieber threw off a mound last week. The Rays are hoping he could be ready sometime in May, but he still needs to build up his arm and requires multiple rehab starts. So if anything, maybe late May. Philly starting pitcher Zach Wheeler went 4 1/3, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned in his latest rehab start. He built up to 61 pitches. However, and here was the kind of question that the organization is trying to answer. His fastball only sat at 92.9. Last year, averaged 96.1. It's a pretty big dip, right? So it's still unclear if he'll ever get that speed back because of the surgery. But still, I think like 92.9, 93 is a pretty decent fastball. He'll make one more rehab start. Then they're gonna figure out if they want to give him one more just to be sure, or if they want to just call him up. I was actually watching the Phillies game earlier today, and they had said that they have him planned to make 2 more. So his last one is going to be Sunday, the 19th of this month. And then after that, they call him up. But if he looks really good, his next start, they might just wash the 19th start on that Sunday and just call him up. So either way, he should be called up at the end of this month. When? I don't know. It all depends on his last start. Yankees starting pitcher Garrett Cole tossed a simulated inning of live batting practice Wednesday. He's actually nearing the final stage of his Tommy John recovery. He's expected to face live hitters Sunday. All goes well, he's going to make a bunch of minor league starts, and then his debut is going to be sometime in mid to late May. And then last but not least, you got Brewers outfielder Jackson Chourio. He is still on track for a late April return. However, he's not entirely sure if the Brewers are going to give him a few rehab starts first, or just assume once he's all healed, we can just throw him in the lineup and go from there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to handle his return once he's 100%. They're going to throw him in the lineup, or they're going to give him a couple more at-bats to just get the juices flowing. But that's the list. A lot of really big names on there, honestly. So, and a lot of them we drafted pretty late in drafts that you were holding on to just for this occasion to come back. So if you are holding on to them, these are things you need to keep track of for sure.
Who do you like on this list most? I'm gonna spoil it. Mine's Zach Wheeler.
Obviously. I would say Zach Wheeler too. I would agree with you, but I haven't seen Garrett Cole pitch in a rehab game yet. So if he's in a rehab game and he's hitting 96, 97, like the Garrett Cole of old, and he's, to say a second start, he's got like 8 strikeouts and 5 innings, I would be inclined to say Garrett Cole. But, again, I mean, the Zach Wheeler, the fastball velocity, yeah, it is kind of, I mean, it's troubling. Not to say it's the tell-all, end-all type for his career or anything. Obviously, he's going to pitch again. But, to go from almost a 4-mile-an-hour dip in a fastball in just, 8 months, it's tough. I don't know. I don't know if that, like they said, no one knows if that's going to stay like that or if maybe his next start, it goes up a little. Nobody has no idea. So it's going to be interesting to watch for sure.
I think the spring training's been encouraging, at least. Not spring training, the rehab's been encouraging. I think it's been so far successful. And I think this guy's a smart enough pitcher where if his velocity is down, it is going to stay down. I think he's such an adaptable pitcher. He's got some nasty stuff already. That's already good off-speed stuff where I think he could still have enough junk to be successful. I think he's just that good of a pitcher. I don't know. Garrett Cole, I don't know. I don't know. I got to see, like you said, you got to see him pitch first. You got to see if that velocity is there. He is another year older. What is he, 34, 35 now? It's not like he's a 32-year-old, 33,
Wheeler's pretty old too, though.
We're creeping up. And I don't know. I gotta see him pitch. I can't. It's tough to judge someone when you don't see them. It's tough to make an opinion on it. And then Jackson Chourio too. Man, what bad luck having that injury like the day before the season starts. And I think he had an MRI. It came back fine, but I guess he's still not swinging a bat yet. So that 2 to 4 week timeline looks like it's probably going to be 4 weeks because he's going to have to go on a rehab start. He's going to have to get, some innings under him before he gets called up again. So, yeah, it's kind of tough. Very, very tough. Oh, wow. You know who just hit a grand slam? Jorge Soler. What a name.
Speak of the devil.
Oh, brother. Can't make that up.
That line, I'm telling you, man, that lineup's getting hot. Lineup's getting hot.
Are you falling for the Jackson Holiday? Spick? I'm not either. I
didn't the first time.
Nope. Never again.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, and we're going to talk about. We'll touch base on that lineup, but it's good to see certain players hit. I think Adley Rutschman looks pretty good now. I mean, he was never really a power type catcher. He was more of an average contact, which was nice, and he looks the part. He looks good. But then, you got Pete Alonso who's just dogging it, man, dogging it. And it's, I mean, you don't know, if you own him, you want to say, oh, you know what? That's what he does. It's a new team. Let him get familiar with it. But then if you don't own him, you're like, man, he does this all the time. Like at the end of last year, strikeout, right? Honestly, I don't know. It's such a wild, I feel like he could go either way. Like, I feel like hopefully he can go on a hot streak. But then a part of me is like, you know what? I don't think he can. I don't know. I honestly, that is the most fun thing I'm going to watch the next couple of weeks. Is Pete Alonso.
If he's not hitting guys in, he's not hitting home runs. He is a team killer, fantasy or real life. It's just not very good at all. Does he even have double-digit points yet this season for fantasy? I don't even think he does yet.
I don't think so.
That's not good. But we kind of knew that though. That was a potential guy that goes to a new team. He's got to get comfortable, got to get used to it. But this guy also strikes out a ton during the regular season consistently. Like there's a track record. So now he's not producing. He doesn't steal bases or anything like that. You have to get on base to steal bases. And now it's starting to bleed out a little bit. At least Devers, because you could make the same argument too, because he hasn't been that great. He's starting to turn around a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. He's starting to turn a little bit, but not as bad as Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's he's burying himself right now. That's a Chris Davis 2.0 just waiting to happen, right?
I think it already did.
It's happening. We're seeing it.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. Then we're going to come back and we'll start talking about who's hot and who's not. How's that sound?
Let's go.
You're going back in? There's still men out there. God damn. When I go home, people ask me, hey, Hoot, why do you do it, man? Why? Just some kind of war junkie? I won't say a goddamn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
And now the guys you just love to hate.
Trash.
It's
garbage.
Man.
It's a dumpster fire, man.
It's a man.
Come on.
It's not.
Doug and Mike are back with more Bourbon and Ball.
Of course, you know what that means. Let us talk about the hottest hitters and pitchers in baseball. Then we will talk about the not so hot hitters and pitchers in baseball. So let's just jump right into it and go from there. So here are the top four, two from each. And some of them do surprise, some of them kind of not, right? And it's funny because the Nationals, they just had a really good week. To me, it's more of who they played than really breakout. But we can go from there. So first and foremost, you had National shortstop CJ Abrams, who's 85.8% owned, 333, 3 homers, 8 ribbies, 5 runs, 5 strikeouts, 4 stolen bases, 37 points, 6.2 a start. Honestly, wasn't too bad. He was at home for both starts, but Dodgers and Cardinals. Dodgers a pretty decent team, right? Cardinals, not so much. But next up, Nationals outfielder DH James Wood. He's 90.5% owned. Very similar numbers, 333, 3 homers, 7 ribbies, 8 runs, 6 strikeouts, only 1 stolen base, 34 points, 5.7 to start. And then some surprising honorable mentions. You had Jordan Walker with 33 points. You had Xander Bogaerts with 32. You had Xavier Edwards, Christian Walker, Freddie Freeman, all with 31 points, rounding it up for who's hot for hitters in baseball.
Oof, man, national theme, huh? I like it. National theme. Good for them, right? We're seeing the best of the best out of these guys. CJ Abrams, we know he can be a talented guy behind the plate there. Contact hitter, got some pop in his bat. When he puts it together, he could be one of the best shortstops from an offensive perspective. It's just kind of gets buried over there in Washington, so we don't talk about him as much as we should. But it's great, encouraging to see this guy start to turn around after last year, kind of having a wishy-washy year. And then James Woods, I feel like this guy is going to be on the hot list. He's going to be on the cold list. He's going to be the sell high. He's going to be the trade low. Like, this guy's going to be all over the place this year because I don't think there's a lot of consistency with him yet where we're comfortable with the outcome sometimes because of the strikeouts. And we know the clip is really, really high. Obviously, this week we brought that down, which is great. But when we were just talking about Pete Alonso, you know, when he's not hitting and he's not hitting for average, he's striking out every time. He's not being, you know, productive at bats at all. So James Woods was kind of the same way. We know peak James Woods could be a potential like Aaron Judge monster type. And I think that's kind of like the high ceiling that people see him as with his power. But he needs to put things together first before he's the guy at the plate, just like Judge was. You know, Judge went to his struggles early on in his career before he really became the hitter that he became. So I'm not saying James Woods is going to be the next Aaron Judge. I'm not saying that. But there is just a ceiling there where this guy can hit you 50-plus home runs in a season. And if he could just cut down on those strikeouts, he would be elite. We're talking top 10 player. But again, very young guy still putting it together. Great to see him on this list. Another great guy to see that we're talking about here is Jordan Walker. Another late bloomer, again, couple years in the major leagues. Now it seems like he's really comfortable getting, you know, his feet under himself, showing a power stroke as well. I think, what does he have, 5 home runs already this year? Yeah. So just absolutely crushing it. Great to see him on the list. And then you got some oldie but goodies, right? You got Christian Walker, who we've been talking about, I feel like, every single day in the group chat, just saying, dude, he's back, and he's back. Well, the points are showing that he's back. Freddie Freeman, another old guy, but he's back. He had a great week. Xander Bogaerts, right? Awesome to see him on here. Xavier Edwards. You and I liked him last year going into the season. We thought he was a contact hitter, not a lot of power, but he can get you stolen bases. And I think this is the version of Xavier Edwards that we wanted to see last year. But now we're seeing it this year. And again, he's part of the reason why Miami's kind of going in a good path because he's at that top of the lineup, making that lineup go around with his high average. So, hey, well-deserved. Great to see these guys. Fantasy sneaky studs on some of them. I mean, and none of these guys are free agents, I don't think, at this point.
No. I totally agree. Yeah, you make a good case with Xavier Edwards. I feel like they're a very similar team like the Nationals. Like when they're going, and they're going now too. And even you can tell in that lineup, right? Otto Lopez looks, you know, he's putting up some pretty good numbers for this past week as well. So yeah, it's good call. Jordan Walker, I think he might fizzle out though. I think a couple of these guys might fizzle out, but it'll be fun to at least keep track of them to see where they end up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
agreed.
So continuing with that theme, a couple about fizzling out here. A couple guys I think might. A's starting pitchers Jeffrey Springs. He's only 10% owned, 10.8. Ran a great week and great wins, quality wins from good teams. So you can't say he didn't earn them. 2-0, 13 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, 3 walks, 148.24 points. He was home versus the Astros. Then he pitched in Yankee Stadium, his second start. Looked really good there. Sonny Gray, the Red Sox starting pitcher, he's 92.4% owned. 2-0, 12 in the third innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 earned, 38.92 points. Home versus the Padres, home versus the Brewers. I think that kind of the number that really sticks out to me is just the 5 strikeouts. He's getting older. I think he's, you know, it's just, and that might come back to haunt him. As I like those, you know, that low amount of strikeouts and giving up those runs. You know, he might not get the points. He might get a lot more negative once people start hitting him because he's not striking out enough people to kind of balance out the runs that he gives up. So just the 5 strikeouts to me is a little alarming. But then you got some honorable mentions here. You got Mackenzie Gore, which is nice to see, 35.28 points. Grant Holmes, 34.08 points. And then last but not least, Mitch Keller, 31.76 points. So honestly, a lot of guys, most of them were probably drafted at past the 10th round, but all 5 of them, but they all made the hot list this week for pitching.
Man, are you sure this is not the who's not list? You know, these names are gross. Man, holy moly. Yeah, Jeffrey Springs, shout out to Jeffrey. I was watching that game yesterday. He was pitching great, and it was in New York, not an easy place to play. So it was great to see him perform there. Sonny Gray, like you said, the strikeouts are just not there. They're not going to probably be there moving forward. He's just got to be one of those guys that goes 6 innings, 3 Ks, maybe 1 or 2 earned. And I'll tell you what, I would take that all day, every day from a Sonny Gray at this age, at this point. So, I'm great to see, and also for the Red Sox, making a little bit of a turnaround, winning a few games here, winning the series against the Brewers, and then having Sonny Gray perform. He's actually probably been like your second best pitcher next to Crochet for the most part. I think he's kind of been that number 2 guy so far. But yeah, Mackenzie Gore, we talked about him during the offseason a little bit. We knew that, hey, going to Texas, this might be the change of scenery that he finally needs in order to be successful. And we saw it last year at the beginning of the year too. He had really good games at the beginning of the year. So I don't want to say that, Mackenzie Gore is back and this and that. I think it's a great performance. It's a great guy to have on your team. Is he going to play every single week for you? Probably not, maybe, but it's a great matchups guy. He strikes out guys. And until he starts to implode, we don't want to obviously jinx that, but that's just something that we got to keep in the back of our minds when we play with Mackenzie Gore. And then the other 2, Grant Holmes and Mitch Keller, great weeks. I'm not touching them. I'm not going out and trading for Grant Holmes. Yeah, those guys are kind of middle of the road guys. I'm not there yet. I mean, Mitch Keller, a couple years ago, he was good. He was good. And last year kind of took a step back for sure, but maybe he's coming back a little bit around the corner. Again, not running out and getting them, but it's a guy that used to be pretty good, and he could be a solid 4, 5, 6 pitcher on some weeks for you as well. I think Pittsburgh's playing a little bit of better baseball as well, so not a bad guy to have on your bench, but I'm not running out and trying to trade for him or anything at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, a lot of these guys I wouldn't trade for. I will say, though, I did pick up Jeffrey Springs, but I picked him up before start, only because he was a 2 start next week. And they were pretty good matchups. So I picked him up. And then, of course, he pitches a gem against the Yankees. And
yeah,
I kind of lucked out because I feel like if I didn't pick him up, someone was going to pick him up after that start anyways. So
I guess it's not so much like a trade for, it's more of a sell high type guys. Like all these guys, like if you have a decent rotation, you're trying to upgrade somewhere, maybe you take advantage of these guys' starts and maybe you package it and you upgrade somewhere, a Mackenzie Gore on a bat, to get like a Valdez or something. Like,
I was say, if there was any one of these guys that I might trade for, it would be Mackenzie Gore, but I'm not going to break the house down for him. I mean, some of the trades that Sean's offering, Mackenzie Gore is his numbers look good now, but again, you're selling high.
Yeah,
just like Josh Naylor before he even played. Honestly, I know he's wishing that he did not draft him or that he traded him to me before the season started because his value has tanked. He might even be less than 90% owned at this point in a lot of leagues. The entire team just looks rough. And we say it all the time. It's just so tough to repeat a great year, right? It's easy for the Dodgers because they spend on this talent. But the Mariners, they're not really spending on talent. They have the talent, but it's not consistent talent. It's like J-Rod. He's not a consistent guy. He's hit or miss,
yeah, they're like a fringe, like middle market, high market team. They want to spend some money, but they're not going to go all in. Like we talk about the rotation. It's a great rotation, and especially Emerson Hancock is kind of just filling it out now too. He looks legit. But the offense, it's like rinse and repeat. It's like they never have offense. They never can just put it together offensively, whether if they signed the Josh Naylor for a 4-year deal. Went out, got Brendan Donovan. I don't think that was a terrible signing replacing Jorge Polanco.
He's their best hitter right now, honestly.
He is. And I don't think the rest of the team is just gelling at this point. And, Randy Rosarita is doing Randy Rosarita's things. I think Cal Riley obviously taking a humongous step back from what we saw last year. That was a career year. You can't expect that every year from him. That's just a career year. We just call it for what it is. And I don't know what they're going to do, because I think they felt like they spent the money where they should, and now they want to see this play out. I just don't think there's enough talent on the offensive side for Seattle to score enough runs. And Josh Naylor needs to pick it up. He needs to pick it up. That's supposed to be the guy that's supposed to get the team going. And he's a contact hitter, and he doesn't have a lot of strikeouts in his career. But now it seems like this year he's going in a little different direction. I don't know what's going on with him. It's a little concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say, he'll get better as the year goes on. He's just too talented. I mean, you look at the last 3 years, he's done nothing but produce, from Cleveland to Arizona to, even at the end of the year for Seattle, right? The last 2 months, you're like, okay, maybe he turned the corner. Maybe he's comfortable now. But then you see him and you're like, wow, he looks lost. So I'm hoping maybe it's just, the start of the season jitters, right? Who knows? But that's a great segment into who's not hot and who's cold this past week. He did not make the list, but I got to tell you, he almost made the honorable mentions. He missed it by a point. That's not saying much. So let's go right in. You got Orioles. We just talked about him. Orioles first baseman Pete Alonso. He's 98.6% owned. .080. No homers, 1 ribby, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, no stolen bases, 0 points for the entire week. 0. And they were actually like matchups you would expect him to excel in. White Sox, Pittsburgh. Crazy. Next up, Royals first base DH Vinny P. 84.6% owned. $172, no homers, 2 ribbies, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, no stolen bases, 1 point. Home versus the Brewers. Then he was away versus Cleveland. So again, not horrible matchups for a hitter. Some honorable mentions. You had Shane Langoliers, 1 point. This is a guy who had something like 25, 28 points first week, and now he gives you 1. Corey Seager, Alex Bregman, Julio Rodriguez, 2 points for the week. And then, of course, Josh Naylor was 3.
Yeah, tough list. Tough to see some of these names on you. Shane Langoliers, right, coming off hot for the Athletics. Multiple home run games, just raking guys in. I mean, obviously these guys are going to take a step back sometimes. They're not going to hit like this all the time. But a couple unsurprising names on here. Pete Alonso being one, not going to lie. This guy has been on this cold list many, many times, including the hot list, but more cold than hot, I think. I think we can testify to that. So not surprised. Too bad. We already talked to him a little bit. But, Vinny P, again, I think this is another guy that is dealing with the World Baseball Classic hangover. Just another guy that's just not producing like he was when he was playing over in the World Baseball Classic. They need this guy to get going because he is one of the big pieces in that lineup with Raquel Garcia, with Bobby Witt. It alleviates Sal, right? Like it can be a very good offense when it's a full steam running offense, but Vinny P needs to be a part of that as well. And you can say the same thing for Jack too. Jack's been off to a slow start as well. So there's a couple guys in that Royals lineup that can really start picking up. But a couple unpopular names on here: Corey Seager, J-Rod. Like again, a couple guys that just strike out at a really high clip at times, can really kill you at weeks. So to see them on here, it's not really too surprising, in my opinion. But one is Alex Bregman, guy that we know that's a contact hitter, pretty good plate discipline. To have negative points for the week is very disappointing to see. And I just think the Cubs lineup is up and down. What's your take on that new Cubs lineup? It's interesting.
So I was watching the game today, and I can tell you Shota looked amazing. No hits,
Shota looked
1
great.
walk, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. Obviously, even though he had a no-hitter, the right move was to pull him. I think he had 98 pitches or so. A lot of long counts, I will say, but looked great. So I'm hoping he's back because he was drafted really late as well. But yeah, I mean, we said it before, it's tough to replace just the presence of a Kyle Tucker. And I think Alex Bregman, although it's a valiant effort, he's not Kyle Tucker. He's older. He's a little more injury prone now. We saw it last year and the year before. It's moving back, moving to the National League. He was in the American League for all of his career, right? And then now he's moving to the National League, different lineup, different location, different weather. I mean, he's playing in Chicago. They're wearing beanies outside compared to what he's wearing in when he was playing in Texas, So it's a little bit of everything. And I don't know if he'll get it back. Like, the entire team looks lost. You have not only that, it's just the lineup is just so wild now. You got PCA batting like 6th. You got Michael Bush batting 7th.
Ooh, can we talk about PCA for a second?
Shoot.
Because I just pulled up his numbers. So I think I told you a couple weeks ago, Doug. I went online. I'm on Instagram, and Pete Crow Armstrong gets this new contract, and I say, "Hey, unpopular opinion. I don't think PCA is that great. I don't think he deserves it. Am I the only one that thinks that?" Doug, I got hammered. They said, "Yep, you're the only one. You're stupid." They threw other curse words at me. They threw the book at me, Doug, right? Let me read you some of these Pete Crow Armstrong stats that we have so far. So far, he's got 51 at-bats. He's only batting .216. Here's an awesome number. His OBP right now is at 245. 245 on base percentage. Gross. Absolutely atrocious, right? He has 1 home run. He only has 4 RBIs. Like, the guy is not very
How many strikeouts?
good. Ooh, let me check the strikeouts right now. Let me see here.
You know what you should do is you should reply back now and say, "Wow, what a great contract, right? What's that average? What's that OBP?"
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. He's got 14 strikeouts right now out of 51. So actually, that's not bad for him.
Yeah,
that's not bad. But still, it's just all these other numbers that I'm looking at right now, and I'm just like, yeah, not very good. And especially like if you're doing fantasy, this guy's supposed to be the 5-tool player. He's supposed to be the stolen bases, the power, the home runs, the RBIs, all this. Well, he's not doing it, and I just don't see the appeal at all with the PCA. I just don't see it, and it's now starting to bleed into it. And you're paying this guy, everyone's online. Oh, what a steal! You only paid $20 million for him. $20 million is a lot of money if you got no production out of him. Like, that's not very good. The guy's not a Roman Anthony where he's a contact hitter. Not a guy that's going to be like a Connor Griffin who's already off and running since called up last week. Like, PCA, I think, has got a lot of issues still that he still needs to work out, and he's still very young. So, just not a PCA guy, Doug. Just not a PCA guy.
Honestly, I'm not really a Cubs guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I look at the lineup today. You had Ian Happ batting 3rd. That's a leadoff hitter. Why is he batting 3rd? Why is PCA 6th? Why is Michael Bush 7th? Michael Bush was batting cleanup for you last year. He's batting 4th. He's batting right after Tucker. Like, the lineup and what they're doing with it, I'm telling you, is playing to this horrible start. I think it's just really adding on to it. It kind of looks like that the manager's just trying to jungle things together, and when they start winning games, keep it. But unfortunately, they nothing's been winning. Nothing's been happening. And you waste an amazing start at home. Shoulders out there, 6 no hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. You should be winning that game. You should have. God, they had runners on. I want to say the leadoff runner in those first 6 innings, at least 4 of the innings was on. You had bases loaded at one point in the bottom of the 6th, I want to say. And nothing. You get nothing out of it. Runners left in scoring position was probably pretty high today, and it's what a waste. What a waste of a start. I honestly just don't see it. I don't see it happening.
No, I mean, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like situational baseball lately has been really bad, like really bad for some of these teams. You know who's not playing really good situational baseball is Francisco Lindor. You probably saw a couple clips already. Just kind of having a highlight reel or a low light reel, I should say, of getting picked off there at first base and then not turning a double play when there was only 1 out. He thought there was 2 outs. And then today, he was at third base. It was men on 1st and 3rd. He was at 3rd. No outs. and then the corner infielders were in. It got shot right to the first baseman. First baseman looks back at third to like make him go back to third base. Francisco Lindor danced around for a little bit. First baseman shot it over to third, tagged him out. So instead of having one out with guys on second and third, now you have first and second with one out. Well, what does the next batter do? He grounds into a double play. And that's why it's 1-0 still. And it's like those moments, these things, they cost you baseball games. And if you're lapsing on the mental side of things, they're gonna kill you on the field. They're gonna crucify you for it. So I'd expect something to happen. Obviously, after this game, some media people should be asking, "Hey, what was going on over there? What were you thinking?" Because that was their best chance of scoring a run so far today. So yeah, situational baseball for the Mets, the Cubs. It's a mess. I think the Cubs are lost. I think the Cubs are. Except Nico Horner.
Yeah, he looked good. They had him batting leadoff today. And like I said, Schroeder looks good, but they also lost Cade Horton. That's a huge loss for them. I mean, they're getting back Justin Steele, but what's he really going to give you? A year removed from playing. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I just hope in the future if a pitcher throws 6 no-hit innings and only gives up 1 walk, he at least gets the win for it. But whatever. And then just to move on and touch base on starting pitching, you had Royals starting pitcher Cole Ragans, 91.6% owned. He went 0-1, only 2/3 of an inning. That was the injury. 2K, 1 walk, 3 earned. Didn't look good before he left. Gave you negative 5.68 points. That was against Cleveland. And then here we are. This is what the Angels, and we were talking about. Chris Sale, 99.3%. 0-1, 4 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 6 earned, negative 2 points. That was, again, at Anaheim. I will say, though, on his defense, he looked good, still pitching hard, 97, 98. This was a start that he battled some kind of sickness, right? Like 4 days before. And it was so bad he couldn't go to the ballpark to watch the game. They had him stick in his hotel. They flushed him with IVs. So they actually thought about skipping his start. A part of me thinks maybe they probably should have, because they could probably be, he probably wouldn't have gotten that knocked around if he ended up skipping a start. I think he really needed to. I think he was just that sick that he just needed to skip a start. He didn't even go on the field for 2 days. So you had that. And then, of course, you got Kevin Gausman, negative 0.4. And then Ranger Suarez, negative 0.08 points. And that's rounding them out right there.
Oh, man, I feel bad for Cole Ragans just because, obviously hurt last year. This year now he's day-to-day. Hasn't been pitching well since he's come back. So I kind of feel bad. And that's a guy that was definitely drafted somewhat early, and there's, we talk about the pitching tiers and the drafts. Like, he was definitely in the, the George Kirby, DeGrom-ish, rounds or so. So kind of tough for owners of Ragans. I'm not worried about Chris Sale. I think Chris Sale is hurt. I think, not hurt, he was sick. I think that's just a bad, lumpy start. But I think he'll be back. Probably had some fatigue. When you get sick, you get fatigue. Yeah. Probably fatigue. He's not a young guy anymore, too. He's 36, 37. He doesn't pitch like a 36, 37-year-old, but he is old. He's just getting older, so he's got to take care of himself. And, just takes a little bit longer to get some of the sickness out of yourself when you get older. Whatever. I'm going long-winded on this. Chris Sale's fine. I'm not worried about this not list.
I agree.
I am worried about Ranger Suarez, though, Doug. That's the guy I am worried about. I don't think he looks great at all since he's put a Red Sox uniform on. And it's not just because he's a Red Sox guy, but just seeing his performances and what's been going on, it's not very encouraging for a guy that you paid a lot of money for.
No, I am right there with you. It's a tough pill to swallow. I look at it and I'm like, well, man, maybe you pay a little more. And when I say a little more, not like an exuberant amount, but you can get a Valdez, a lefty, obviously he got shelled his last start, but he struck out enough. So it wasn't bad. he gave up 6 runs in the first, and I was just glad they let him just kind of barrel through it, because if they would have pulled him, then yeah, you think you're talking a negative 11 points at that point. He'd be on this list, but they let him go out there. He ended up pitching into the 6th, which was wild, and he still got a decent amount of strikeouts. He got like 6 or 7. So all in all, yeah, you gave up a lot of runs, but you struck out enough to kind of, and that's what I was talking about earlier. With when we talk about Sonny Gray, only 2 strikeouts, right? For that, and you for one of his starts, and you're like, wow, see, if he gets shelled, he's not going to have enough strikeouts to actually give you positive points. And those are the kind of things you got to look at. And then Dwayne asked a question: would you drop Quinn Prester to put Brent Rooker on the IL? And I would say yes.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Quinn Prester plays for a very good baseball team. I think the Brewers are still a very good baseball team, and especially in point leagues. Just give yourself an opportunity to get a cheap win. Prester was great last year, but he could still go 5-6 innings, get you the win, get a quality start potentially. It's kind of worth rostering.
He's also on the IL till, Quinn's still on the IL till the end of May. So who knows? Maybe Rooker's back in time, and you can start him and then pick back up Quinn Prester.
Yeah, I think Rooker. I don't know. I kind of stand by what I said last week about Rooker. I don't know if he's gonna be the same guy that we saw the last few years. He's been super consistent when it comes to points, but I just don't know if he's going to do that again this year. If he slopes a little bit, it's not going to be in a good way because, again, of the strikeouts. So I don't know. I'm on the fence with Rooker so far this year.
Yeah. Actually, to stick with that A's theme, I will say, I know after my draft and, after the first week of seeing some of these players, you kind of have an overreaction. And mine was Jacob Wilson. That was a position that I punted on, and I was just surprised that, people just, there was so many good shortstops. Like I said last week, I was just so surprised that people kind of stacked up on him and got 2 or 3. Someone has Gunnar Henderson, and then someone has Corey Seager on the same team, and you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that in my draft. So I'm stuck with Jacob Wilson. And after the first week, I was like, man, I was kind of hitting the panic button. Like, okay, maybe I can try to get somebody. And then, someone offers me Perdomo for Freddie Freeman. And I'm like, come on, dude, Perdomo wasn't hitting. I'm not going to do that. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't do what I wanted to, because, Jacob Wilson has put together a good couple 3 or 4 games, 2 for 3 today, couple hits yesterday, kind of coming together. Tyler Soderstrom, he's striking out more than I would like, but he's putting the ball in play. So I think the A's they're slowly coming. They're beating the Mets 4-0 now. Jacob Wilson scored, 2 of the runs out of the 4. So it's good. But those are the overreactions you can get really early on when you're breaking down your lineups. It's like, oh man, what the hell, man? I need to get rid. Like I need a better this or a better that, and it's like, well, dude, it's the first week.
Well, we talked about Jose Ramirez, and it's like, this guy is known to have a slow start. Like, he does take weeks before he becomes Jose Ramirez.
Right.
Jacob Wilson, we don't really know much about him when it comes to, like, track records. Last year he came up and he did his thing, and it was great. He doesn't strike out a lot, doesn't walk a lot. He just puts the bat on the ball, and whatever happens from there, he's got a little pop in there too. But yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with him sometimes, just because you don't have the track record. You just don't, you have an idea of what happened last year. You kind of going by that. I would have done the same thing if I had to punt on shortstop. And I still think he'll be fine. I still think he'll score points for you.
Yeah, he's looking like the guy that kind of finished the year last year hitting like 320. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm kind of glad I didn't do anything too wild. But on the flip side, I still would have liked a more power at that position.
Yeah. He didn't do anything too wild yet.
Not yet. Well, that's because, the trades I'm getting is like, come on, really? Let's be honest.
Well, there's Sean trades.
Not even just him, but like other people.
Ooh.
I'm like scratching my head. Like that who's Adam's friend in the league?
Logan
who was sending. Yeah, who's the trade? He did a trade with Jimmy. He did like a 2-for-1, and he offered me the same 2-for-1 for somebody else, and just because they weren't like great players, So it's just really, really bad trades. Like I don't know.
he offered me it wasn't like a good or bad trade, but it was Devers for Tanner Beebe. And Tanner Beebe's been not great so far this year, and neither is Devers. So it's like, buy low type situation. But I'd rather have a Devers than a Beebe, I think, right now.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. Man, we're moving along, dude. Let's cruise along. Let's talk about. Let's do some wheeling and dealing, right? Let's talk about. Again, let's start out with what we're selling, who we're selling, some of the hot stocks we're going to sell. This one, actually, you actually touched base on this one earlier. You said this is a guy that could probably go hot. This is a guy that could probably go cold. You could probably sell high. You could probably buy low. I'm saying you sell him. There he is. There's the man, James Wood, 90% owned in leagues. Look, listen, amazing few days. We went over his numbers. He made the hot list: 333, 3 homers, 7 ribbies, 8 runs, 1 stolen base, 6 strikeouts, 34 points, or 5.7 to start. A lot of those points, though, came in the last 3 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, which is not a really, good team, to be honest. 2 homers were against them. So, listen, we all saw what he did the first half of last year. One of the best fantasy contributors. But the second half came, and that's when things fell apart for our friend James Woods, right? His average dipped. His home runs were down. His strikeouts were way up. It's tough to say that Woods' potential or what his potential really is, right? Maybe it's a combination of both halves, Maybe it's a combination of what he did the first half, what he did the second half. And, if he was that consistent all year, then I think he's still a great player. He'd still be a really good contributor to fantasy. But I don't think he is. I think he's one of the streakiest players in baseball. He's been the last couple of years. I mean, if you can believe that he's going to maintain this production, you hold him. But if you think there'll be a dip, which I do believe will happen, then I would probably sell. Let's not forget the entire Nationals team had a great week. We just talked about Abrams putting up 35 points, But, when the week prior the lineup wasn't going, Woods wasn't hitting. I think he got 7 points the first week. He was drafted in the 9th round in our money league anyways, right? And I mean, I wouldn't hate the idea of combining him and somebody else to maybe upgrade an outfield, just to get a more consistent bat. But I am selling Woods. I am. I just, now if there's a time to do it, you always got to do it when they're high and they're up and they had a good week. And it's early. So you sell them. Maybe whoever buys them thinks, oh, you know what? He's going to continue this for the rest of the year. But I think we all know that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that too. If you're going to go out, get a guy upgrade, again, we talk about James Wood's ceiling of what he could be and what he can be maybe in his future. Again, this is only his, I think, 3rd full major league season that he's going into here. So very young in his career, and he got called up pretty young too. So he's really just starting to come to form, I think. Again, we talk about the strikeouts. They can kill you every single week if he doesn't hit the home runs and get the guys in. There's just a lot of contingency stuff. So, yeah, I'm a seller of James Wood. And like we have guys in our league, Doug, that are James Wood guys. They're just got, you know what I mean? I'm a Junior Caminero guy. Like I'm gonna go out, get Junior wherever I can, and I'm probably overbuy him, but that's just my guy. And James Woods is like that with a lot of other people too. So you just gotta find that matchmaker. You gotta find that right person that wants a guy like this. And then you gotta have to get creative with what you want to trade for and what they value him at. And again, like I think a guy that's having a fantastic bounce back season who could win comeback player of the year is a Yordan Alvarez, who is just, I think, just crushing the ball. I think he's a top 10 hitter still right now. Yeah. If you put a James Wood and, a solid pitcher or, another solid bat together, maybe you can combine that, get an Alvarez back and, and call it a day. But I'm trying to probably move James Wood as much as possible. If I drafted James Wood, Doug, which I did not draft him in any league that I'm in, I would have drafted him purely just to try to find the person that would want him. And it's like I would like evaluate my team and be like, okay, well, I got James Wood, but I got 3 other outfielders, and I know I want to change James Wood. So let me see what my team looks like at the end of the draft. And then this is going to be a guy that I'm going to try to sell for whatever gap that I'm trying to look for. And then also it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Right now is good timing. This guy is red hot, made the hot list. He's playing great. So yeah, it's a guy that you could probably sell at this moment right now before he starts striking out again at that 35% clip that he's known for. Kills you. So get rid of the cancer before it starts coming.
Yeah, and listen, I know we always say trade him. I mean, just also remember though is when you do trade him. I mean, he might not tank right away. Maybe in a month or so. Like I think the beginning of last year, we knew PCA was going to kind of crap to bed, right? We kept saying sell. Well, we waited, and if you would have traded him the first month like we wanted to, you would have missed out on a lot of points, maybe a couple wins, right? Because he was MVP, a top 5 MVP getter at the first half. But you held on to him that second half. I think he did so bad. I don't think he even batted over 200 that second half. It was just so bad. And I mean, that's the thing you also got to realize. Again, it's a long season, right? I mean, don't expect to trade somebody and he's just going to shit to bed after you trade him. Like, it's not going to, that's not how it works. You could trade him and hey, he could very well have a horrible couple months, have a great month and a horrible couple months after that. But at the end of the day, you got to say to yourself, I want a consistent guy that can just put up numbers, even if it's like 15 points a week for the entire year, 15 points every week, positive. That's what I want. That's how I try to build my teams. I don't like the guy that can give you, hey, let me give you 45 points this week. And you know what? I'm going to give you -5 the next. I don't see the value in that. I don't, because when it comes time to the playoffs, which version are you going to get? You're going to get the guy that's going to give you 45 points, or you're going to get the guy that gives you -5. And then you know what? One and done. That's it. Yep. So that's why I'm a big advocate of consistency, especially in fantasy. And James Woods, like, he's not my type of guy. He's not your type of guy. Pete Alonso, not my type of guy. Never was my type of guy. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, he's a hot or cold hitter for sure.
Tough to gauge. Really just tough to gauge.
Yeah. And then another guy on this list, I mean, he didn't have the best outing, but I don't know. There's something irks me about a Cole Raggins.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go over your numbers before you start saying anything. 92% owned, like I said, -5 points last week. So how are you selling high? Well, listen first, okay? Raggins is one of those guys that people always say the potential. He's there, mate. Listen, I agree, but outside of that breakout year, which was 2 years ago, the guy doesn't look great. He's not where you drafted him in the 5th round. He went to the 5th round in our money league. That's not a 5th round draft pick. He's not. He's no. And let's go over those numbers, that breakout year, right? Outside of that breakout year, he's never pitched more than 96 innings in a year. He's never struck out more than 113 batters. He's never had more than 7 wins. That's it. Okay? So tell me, how many more years are we going to continue drafting guys like this, thinking, hey, this is my ace? The potential. My advice would be, listen, he's going to make his next start. If he looks good, you can hold on to him for one more start just to make sure he's good to go. And then if he looks good after that, trade him. Wash your hands, and that's it. I don't exactly know what his market would be, but to me, a Raggins guy, there are Raggins guys out there. Like there are James Woods guys out there. There are Raggins guys out there, right? But if he can put together a couple good starts and stay healthy, get rid of him, shop him around, see what the best deal you could get for him it would be. and then just move on.
Yeah, you got to wipe your hands clean. But you need him to perform first before you can do that. Right now, it's kind of a crapshoot. But like you said, 5th round is pretty high. And in a league like ours, Doug, like we value pitchers pretty highly in our leagues. I think you want to have a good staff because again, they can hurt you more than they can help you at times, and we don't want that. And Cole Ragans, again, like you said, a couple years ago, breakout year, traded from Texas, I believe, to Kansas City. Came back half the year, played pretty good, had that full year, played really good. Obviously hurt now, and then now day to day again, like up and down, and it's just going to continuously be up and down. It's not like the guy's going to get back up and he's going to stay up forever. That's why we do highs and lows. But yeah, Cole Ragans, I think it's time to think about once you have those 2 good starts. Like, let's say he goes back-to-back 6-inning starts, gets a couple wins, and all of a sudden Kansas City's on this little win streak and he's, healthy. I would look at a guy like a Bregman. We just said he was on the cold list. Guy's not really hitting great. Cubs lineup is kind of up in the air. If you got a really good Cole Ragans after a couple games, maybe you can get a guy like a Bregman that isn't going to also kill you either. So if you can get rid of the pitcher, you get the batter that has great plate discipline, low K strikeouts, and I think third base is kind of a tough position to fill as well. I think that's probably what you're looking at.
It's a great trade.
It's
a great trade.
I did a trade earlier this year. It was like a George Kirby for a Bregman, and again, where he landed in the draft, that's where he was. He was around DeGrom. He was around Kirby. Ragans was right there. Evaldi was right there. Like, it was all about that same area. If you said you picked one guy over the other, no one would have blinked. But yeah, I think it's time to evaluate Cole Ragans and think about what your move is if you do have them, and just being strategic about it too. I think it's safe to have that conversation now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, like I said, that's a really good point. But yeah, you got to make sure you can string together a couple decent starts before you start talking trades with him.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about the hype we're buying here. And there's a couple good ones. We got a little less than 15 minutes, so we'll breeze a little past them, right? Man, what a great pick. First baseman, we talked about him. Christian Walker, he's only 67% owned. Listen to this: 360, 3 homers, 6 RBI, 2 strikeouts. 6 runs, 31 points, 5.2 a start last week. That's last week he hit 360. Listen, when Walker played in Arizona, he was one of the most consistent fantasy bats, averaging just 130 strikeouts a year, 28 home runs. That's great. I mean, you fast forward to last year, it was his first year with Houston. He had 177 strikeouts and 27 home runs, okay? With most of those home runs coming at the end of the second half, and most of those strikeouts coming in the first half. I like to think that he may be back. And, I think last year, the way he finished is kind of carrying over into this year. Like I said, first year with a new club, trying to adjust. I think that's behind him. The fact that he's number 1 in first base in points for a points league. I mean, it's crazy. I don't think he's going to finish with a 360 average, but I'll take a 270. I'll take 30 home runs, and I'll take around 130 strikeouts. This is a guy you like. For me, I specifically got in the 20th round. The 20th round, like, that's value. When you have somebody that performs this good that you got so late, you have so many options. You can go out, you can trade the guy who you're starting first base now and plug him into that spot because he's number 1 right now. So no one's better than him, right? So you have options. You can trade him since this value is sky high, but I don't think I would. I think I don't know. I might think about considering trading my other first baseman first, depending on who it is, and roll with Christian Walker as your primary. I really do think he's going to produce. I really do. And I think he's back. And like I said, 2 strikeouts in a week. The points are there. He looks comfortable. I'm sure it helps that Jordan's healthy and he looks really good. That plays a major factor into this. So, yeah, I'm buying the hype. I am buying, 100% buying.
Yeah, Houston's looking pretty good so far. I'm not gonna lie. Even Altuve is still hitting that high average still. So you got a lineup that's going on all cylinders right now. It's all good in Houston offense, including Correa making a little comeback in his return back in Houston. So it's a fun lineup, and I think Christian Walker just needed to get his feet under himself in that first year in Houston, and finally did. Looks great. Sort of in the second half, like you said. Great value for a guy like this as well. Like we do a keepers league, Doug, and this is a guy that 20th round. Man, what value you can get if this guy ends up being a top 5 first baseman at the end of the year? That's going to be tough. You think, hey, this is a 20th round pick, and I'm going to get a top 5 guy in a position. Like that's pretty good value right there. So in that aspect, from the keeper's perspective, it's really hard to move him because of just that nugget alone. And again, he's producing for you. So why would you want to take someone out that's producing really well for you? Again, especially like if that's your backup first baseman. Because like you said, I think you got like a guy like a Freddie. Like if you're drafting a guy in the 20th round, that's not your number 1. Maybe not even your number 2. This is the guy that you say, hey, I'm going to take a flyer on, and I'm just going to let it see what plays out. So it gives you even more flexibility. So this is a guy I probably would hold. I'm buying the hype. I'm buying what you're saying, what you're saying there. But, it would have to be a really, really intriguing trade for me to move a Christian Walker right now. I just don't think there are going to be teams, owners that are going to want to trade what his now value is because of what he was before. Dude, he's a stud. He's just a stud.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks great. I think he's back. He looks like he's comfortable now. Like I said, a healthy Jordan really does help. And yeah, and Correa's there too. Kim Smith's hitting the ball. He's kind of looking like he's turning into the guy that they thought they were going to get when they traded Tucker. So all in all, I don't know if this was what the Astros envisioned in their crystal ball, but it is all coming together. It really is.
Looking good. The Hunter Brown injury was definitely tough, but and then it was a Christian Javier too, I believe. He just got hurt as well. So, but other than that, though, the offense looks great. Now it's just getting that rotation healthy, back, doing what they were doing best. But, man, Christian Walker, it's great to see a guy like that bounce back, isn't it?
It is. I was laughing because Dwayne said I almost traded because I have Naylor in our Bourbon League, and he goes, I almost traded you Devers and Rooker for Naylor.
Wow.
Not a bad trade. I mean, I don't like Rooker. So even if the trade was there, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like I'm trading a strikeout guy for a worse strikeout guy, and Devers strikes out too. So not a bad trade. I mean, it's definitely interesting. All right, and let's last but not least, and Mike, this is your guy, and I will honestly say that I was kind of wrong, not 100% wrong, but I was a little wrong. I don't know what to think. There he is. He's got the little Western mustache. He looked like he just came from the set of Tombstone with that thing. But 97% owned. Great start against the Dodgers, his last start. 5 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, 9.4 points. Mike, I'm not his biggest fan, but I have to say this might be a good year for him. It might be. I saw his first start at home. I was watching the game, and let me tell you what the spectacle the Blue Jays did for their home opener was the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen. My wife's watching it, and she's like, "Is this what they do for baseball openers?" I go, "No." It looked like a opening season for like NFL. Like the lights are going down, the videos are playing. It's like it was amazing. It must have been great to be there for sure. But I saw that start. It was home versus the A's. 12 strikeouts. Looked great. I would probably buy him. I think my only concern, and it's a big concern, especially in leagues that reward you for quality starts, is the quality start aspect. Okay. Now hear me out. True to form, he either walks or he strikes out a batter, right? And that crushes his pitch count. I don't think his ERA is going to be over 4 like it usually is. It's usually around 4.2, 4.3 for the year. I actually think it can be around 3.6. I think he can have about 12 wins, 220 plus strikeouts like he always does, but it's the quality starts. It's a shame because his last 3 starts should have been wins, but he didn't go over 5 innings. He didn't get you a quality start. I'm buying him. I don't think I would pay a huge price for him just because our league rewards quality starts, and he's just the way he pitches. It doesn't look like he's going to have a ton of them this year. That's all.
Yeah, his crux has always been his location when he pitches. He gets very erratic at times. He throws a lot of pitches during his outings. Like you said, you can go 5 innings, strike out 12 guys. That's great, but sometimes you need that extra inning or two. Not just for obviously points and quality starts and stuff in fantasy, but from a baseball perspective, you want your starters to go 6-7 innings, so that way you're not straining your bullpen at the time too. And Dylan Cease is supposed to be their guy. They spent a lot of money on him, and that was a big move. And clearly, he's unlocked something in Toronto where he is just throwing some absolute filth at these batters. So I think long-term wise, I think he's going to be just fine in Toronto. He's going to get more wins. He'll continue striking out guys. And maybe a little bit of a bold prediction, but maybe not. I think this guy's going to finish in the top 5 Cy Young. So, again, the strikeouts are there. If he can put the innings together and then just, get those runs down a little bit and get that ERA down, this guy could be a lethal guy for Toronto and also their playoff run when it comes to September, October. I think I'm buying. Obviously, I drafted him. I'm still excited about him. I like what I see from him so far. I love how I have him, Jacob Mizorowski, and Garrett Crochet on a team. Just 3 high caliber strikeout guys that can propel you to wins. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm just glad it's working out for him. I think he finally found his home. He bounced around a little bit, but I think he finally found it.
Yeah, he looks good. And that's that's about it. Man, we hit about a 2-hour mark, and look, I'm fresh out. So
wow, great timing.
I know. So we got to go around the league, talk about some really big stories, a couple fights and brawls that are breaking out, went over some IL stuff. So you were holding on to a couple guys that, we're hoping they were going to come out of the IL soon. Gave you some updates on them. And then, of course, who's hot, who's not, and who we're buying and who we're selling. So actually, really fun, really insightful episode. I can just say I'm thankful baseball's back. And I think a lot of people are. So for Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon N Ball. I've done my drinks. I'm going to go to bed. You finish yours, and now you go to bed.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness, one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.